Hello St. Peters, my name is Disney and I'm going to share Psalm 62 with you. I'm not going to read the whole psalm, so you might want to read that for yourself. So this psalm was written by David, and as you know, David was this amazing king of Israel. He was an incredibly talented man. He was a talented musician, a talented leader. He was handsome, he was courageous and powerful. He as a warrior, he would go into war with his army and win all these battles, and he'd come back and the whole nation would be singing his praises. He was adored by his nation. But in verse 9, he says, "Surely the lowborn are but a breath, the highborn are but a lie. If weighed on a balance, they are nothing. Together they are only a breath." It's incredible to think that, this amazing King David, he has such a sober view of himself. He is so down to earth and recognizes himself as a mere mortal, just like any other. And it's such a contrast to what we see today, I think. Today, we have this real sense of self-importance, I think, as human beings, and we have all these very high expectations for our lives and of our lives, and we're always striving and trying to achieve and trying to prove ourselves and measuring ourselves against our achievements. But David sees right through that, and it's really quite incredible, because he was also a very weak man. He was a terrible dad. He was a terrible husband. He had a very dysfunctional family situation, and he experienced incredible tragedies in his life, and he committed some terrible crimes as well. And in verse 5 he says, "Yes, my soul finds rest in God, my hope comes from him. Truly he is my rock and my salvation, he is my fortress, I will not be shaken." It's amazing. He has such confidence in his position before God, despite all the terrible things that he has done and all the terrible things that he has experienced, and despite the fame that he would have received from people around him, all that sort of praise and worship that he got from people. Tim Keller shares something about this verse. He says in verse 5, David counsels himself with the lesson of verse 1. The battle to shape our hearts with the truths our minds know is never over. I think even as Christians, we can fall into this deception, thinking that it depends on us, that we have to achieve, that we have to prove ourselves. But but by the power of the Holy Spirit, we can also counsel ourselves. We can tell our hearts what our minds and our experience know, that actually, it doesn't depend on our ability, it doesn't depend on us, it is completely dependent on God. It says here, my soul find rest in God. I think rest here doesn't mean, have a cuppa and put your feet up. Rest here means to depend on God, to trust God, to rely on God, to believe God. That's what it means, and that's what we have. And I think this is incredible. It is incredible, because I think even as Christians we can fall into religiosity. Religiosity is where we're trying to earn our own salvation, but we know that through the Bible and through the Holy Spirit we can see the wood from the trees. We can see that our salvation comes from God, and all we have to do is receive and glorify him. I hope that encourages you today. Have a great day.